Good afternoon, greater Philadelphia area. This is Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Sarah Tymon. We both work at the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line, the number one RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania since 2018. And we have got a ton of stuff to cover today. We've got NAR Settlement news with a startup from one of the plaintiffs now entering the real estate space. The NAR is appealing the DOJ decision to reopen the investigation. BrightMLS is restricting data and conflicting with NAR policies. And we're going to break that all down next, along with the housing market assessment as we enter the unofficial start of fall. So if you like what you hear, you get some value out of this, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. And if you want to schedule a call with our team about how to navigate all of this and talk to Sarah specifically, you can do so with a link in the comments. So, it feels like fall today, right? Like, it's a little chilly out. You know, there's my kids were up bright and early for their 7:15 bus, which is bananas for a middle school. And it's always a good time when the seasons change to kind of assess what's going on in the market. And we did get some interesting housing data over the past week. So inventory was pretty flat. And we went from about 744 homes on the market to 704,335. So that's basically a wash. We've seen rates really start to stabilize here. We're seeing showings start to pick up, which was not the case for most of the summer. What's your assessment here, Sarah, before we get into all the data here about the direction of the market? We've got a Fed meeting in 15 days. There's some inflation readings as well. What do you see happening on the ground?
Yeah, I mean, I am seeing a spike of people wanting to get out and, schedule showings, look at more homes. On the listing side, I've seen showings tick up, which is great. Because we did have towards the end of the summer there definitely was a weird period there where showings just they weren't happening as regularly. Mm-hmm. I think that we're going to kind of start to see that pick back up again. People kind of school's now started and they can kind of move on with, if they put this on the back burner for the last couple weeks of the summer here, they can kind of re-enter into the market.
I think that's a great assessment because there is if you just look at social media, everyone's last minute, last hurrah of the summer. And that happens all the time. So if you look at what's happening just for the week ending September 1st, and this is in the Metro Philadelphia area, we saw that listings were up compared to the same week last year, but down compared to the previous week. We saw that showings were down 10.1% compared to the previous week. Mm-hmm. They're down 4.7% compared to where they were a year ago, but nationally we're starting to see some people come back to the market. Median time to contracts at 19 days, which is up a little bit from where it was previously. Pricing was pretty flat. So we're seeing this kind of pause as we head into the fall market. And I do agree with you. It seems like today, all of a sudden people were just back. Everyone was on summer vacation for 2 months and now everyone's back and things were happening normally. So what I really wanted to look at here, and I want to get your reaction to this, is the Personal Consumption Expenditures Price Index, the PCE. That's one of the Fed's preferred measures for inflation. They showed prices of goods and services were up 2.5% in July from a year ago. This rating just came out the end of last week. It's just a half point above the 2% target that we've been talking about for what feels like a very long time. Mm-hmm. And it's been stable. It's kind of the trend here. It wasn't much better than June. And housing and utilities were still the biggest contributors to the increased cost of services, while some of the other things were the drivers of higher costs for goods. But core PCE, which excludes the cost of food and energy, and often the more reliable indicator of inflation trends, rose 2.62% from a year ago compared to the revised 2.58% in June. And that was in line with forecasts. And if you look at this, I think this is just going to set the stage here that we do see that rate cut coming. And if rates do come down, and let's say we see a 5 handle, mm-hmm. I would imagine the market's going to be flush with activity here in a couple weeks.
I would definitely agree. I think when you cross some of those bigger thresholds, like all of a sudden there's a 5 in front of it instead of a 6, that gets people excited. And the actual change in the rate could be less, meaning like, if you went from like a 6.4 down to a 6.2 and then like a 6.0 to a 5.9, but like it crossing into that other category tends to bring about more activity than potentially like a larger change, but where you're not crossing one of those like bigger thresholds.
Well, and what we're seeing now is, and I do agree, I think there's just a mental thing to it as well. I mean, whether we believe it or not, I mean, people see like that 5 and it's like, whoa, wait a minute, we need to, react here, even though we hit a 52-week low earlier in August. What we also saw is that people are starting to revise their mortgage rate projections. So Wells Fargo, obviously everyone knows Wells Fargo, right? If you don't, they're a big bank. They do a lot of lending and those sort of things. And they're one of the experts in the industry. And they recently revised their rate projections for the fourth quarter to from a previously a 6.5% 30-year fixed to a 6.25% 30-year fixed. And we're seeing in Q1, it might be even lower, going from 6.3 to 6.1. Now, this stuff always moves around, these projections, but the fact that people are coming out and looking that lower interest rates might be coming, I would imagine that if you're thinking about making a move in the next year, let alone the next few months, you want to start thinking about what that might look like for you and your household. So how are you advising people on this when they ask, like, how's the market, Sarah? What do you think is going to happen? Obviously, more than just asking questions, but giving them real advice.
Right. Well, I mean, I think one thing to keep in mind here, too, as we get closer to Q4, them having predictions for Q4 kind of means more to me than when at the beginning of the year they're predicting where they're going to be for the different quarters throughout the year, because a lot can happen between January and November, So as you get closer, their predictions, I feel like, tend to be a little bit more accurate for what we might actually end up seeing. How I'm kind of advising people is, talk to your lenders now. Be prepared for, like, I can run numbers both at like where we are right now and what it would look like if they did, if they did come down to a lower level there. But then also just kind of reiterating that as rates come down, more buyers come in. And if we bring it back to monthly payment, you may have to end up actually spending a little bit more to get into the home. Depending on where rates eventually go, you can always refinance those, but you can't renegotiate the cost of what you paid to get into a home.
Yeah, and that's where it's really important for people to just understand like what like cash flow means and what you actually can get out of when you're refinancing and what the options are, because people, I mean, you said this, I think we joke about it now, like it's like you can't time the market. It's
right.
Like we're going to make T-shirts up that Sarah can wear on the show moving forward. But in all seriousness, I think we're starting to see some things happen that, yeah, if rates do start to fall, obviously that creates a lot more demand. I think that now the flip side of this is that if you look at the savings rate in July for the U.S., it was at 2.9%, and a lot of people consider that to be unsustainably low compared to just over 6% before the pandemic. And a lot of people, a lot of economists predict that the ongoing softening in the labor market will lead to more precautionary saving that might dampen growth in consumption over the next few quarters, which that's what the Fed's been wanting. And that brings inflation down, and ultimately that you're going to see rates return to a normal sort of place. I mean, we're at a 23-year high on the federal funds rate. I mean, and before the pandemic, I mean, we were at like 2, and now we're obviously up at 550 basis points to 575. The target obviously is a little higher right now than where it has been. So that's one factor here, and when that happens, I am clear there's going to be a couple things that go on. One, inventory gets unlocked a little bit. I mean, how many times do you talk to somebody and they're like, well, I just got it too good here. I can't move out of this place. And it's not that they're not willing to accept a higher rate. It's the spread is too big. Mm-hmm. And when the spread's too big, there's not that upside of moving. And if rates do come down, there's going to be some people that have a life event they've been delaying, and that to me is going to be, start to bring more inventory to the market. And you don't want to see that happen at a high level because that means there's other bad stuff going on in the economy. Right. At the same time, you want to, more inventory is going to be healthy for everybody here, and that's what a lot of economists have said.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So let's look at we talk about kind of purchase application data, and obviously they're pretty seasonal. And the heat months for purchase application data are typically like the second week of January to the first week of May, and then you see things kind of drop, and that's in line with most of the business. I think it's historically 60% of the business we do is between January 1st and June 30th each year. Obviously, every market's going to be a little more seasonal, but the last 12 weeks have been the best 12 weeks for purchase applications for the year, primarily due to the year being negative on the weekly data. So, I mean, it's the fact that we're seeing purchase applications come up like that. I think that's and they've been so strong. That's certainly a sign that the rates are affecting the market. And the other data point to look at here is the last two time rates fell in 2022 and 2023 around the middle of November, closer to the seasonal volume push. The positive growth in purchase applications was stopped when rates went higher because we saw rates, we were like 8% last November. So now that we've got this downward trend on rates, and I'm not saying it's going to be like a cliff, it's going to be obviously very gradual. I would imagine we're going to see more activity in the second half of the year than we have in the past 2 years in terms of the homes that are transacting. Yeah,
I think, I absolutely think that could be the case.
And so if rates get below 6, do you see sustained growth when it comes to the number of home sales, or what's your projection there? Because we're at this like almost like a tipping point right now, Sarah, is what I'm seeing with a lot of this data that we're looking at.
Yeah, if we get below 6, and inventory can unlock a little bit more, I think that's going to be great for everyone because, as you had said, there are people that have been holding off in going ahead and making that next move, both for like the sale side and on the purchase side, or oftentimes simultaneously. So I think if we're able to get that to unlock a little bit, and we don't see a massive drop in the rates, but just like a nice, like a little dip, and that things are kind of like stable and nothing's happening, way too quickly, I think that will be good for everybody.
I agree. And if you look at what the CME group's talking about, they basically put the odds on what the Fed's going to do. We've got a meeting in basically 2 weeks. There's a 63% chance we see a 25 basis point decrease, a 37% chance we get to a 50 basis point increase. And the Fed has come out and said, I would be shocked if there's nothing that happens. I think that's pretty clear. The more this goes on, the more meaning, we see this kind of mixed data here. I'm in the camp that it's probably going to be a 25 basis point decrease. I'd like to see more personally. That tends to be what looks like it's going to be going on, and what the Fed's going to do, because I think they're still going to be a little tepid until we see some sustainable data that we're getting closer to 2%. Right. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I would be shocked if it was not a 25%. Basis point reduction. Like if it was anything, if it was 50, I would be surprised, and if it was 0, I would be surprised.
Yeah, well, 0, I don't. It's not. It doesn't even look like it's on the table. So that would be shocking to me if that was the case. So I agree with you wholeheartedly there. And if we're seeing this sort of the talk of lower rates, this is where you got to be really careful as an agent and as a homeowner, because a lot of people, they just take off like the second half of the year, and for whatever reason, maybe they got frustrated, maybe they they're not doing the things as an agent to line people up. You're talking about going on listing appointments that have been like months in the making, right? Mm-hmm. And that to me is what really is going to be what drives agent business here. But for the consumer that's thinking about maybe pulling out of the market until next year, what advice do you have for them?
I think in the fall, you have so much opportunity to get in when others have. It's really easy to kind of push things off and just kind of like push it down the line and say like, you know what? I wanted it to happen here in 2024. I gave it a shot earlier in the year. Didn't happen. let's just scratch it and we'll start in 2025. Well, if people do that, that means you've got less competition, and it puts you in a better position. And you never know what week the right home is going to pop up. So I'm not saying go look at everything and look at things that don't make sense and yada, yada, yada. But like, if there's something that could be an option, get in there, take a look at it, and you may be up against less competition. You may be able to negotiate better terms. And it's worth it to stay in it this time of the year.
So that's really good advice. And I mean, Warren Buffett has always said you want to be buying when a lot of people aren't. And if there's less competition or you're ahead of the competition, this to me is the move, because you always hear like, oh, I'm going to wait until the spring. Like this is like this talk that people have, like, oh, all the great homes they sell in the spring. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's not the case. The savvy consumer is looking for the right opportunity and making sure that they're in a position to make a move for it. I think Lisa Stuyvesant from Bright just posted something that says when your ducks aren't in a row as a home buyer, you've already lost, because you're not in a position, like you don't know what's going to happen in the market. Now, for the seller side, if you got a place to go, and there is still a lot of demand out there. Now, we're seeing inventory rise. It's up 21% locally in the greater Philadelphia area. So that would make me a little nervous as a seller, because if rates do dip, you're going to see a lot more sellers come to the market, and maybe you're not getting these offers of these people that have like the great terms and a great price. I mean, you'll be fine either way, I think, but there is opportunity to sell a home now and do really well, and you want to look at the best time for you to have your home on the market is when the neighbors don't. So that to me is something that's always held true. So,
and I think if you're somebody who like they don't have the next place to go, they're still looking for something on the buy end, have your stuff lined up on the sell end so that if the right one does pop up, you can pull the trigger and you're not like having to backtrack for like, okay, now we found the home, but like, how do we make all of this come together? Like, have those conversations prior to seeing the right home and kind of have your plan in line so that you know how you can be aggressive on your offer on the buy end and how you can quickly get things up and going on the sell end. You don't want to, kind of push that down the line and be like, oh, well, we'll talk about that when we find the right house to buy, and then be in a scramble and potentially miss out on the right one.
Well, and one thing that's pretty key there, and this is where agents need to really pay attention, because I see this happen all the time. We debrief our appointments constantly at our team, and I'll see like all these questions come up. And usually when there's a lot of questions, you know what I see? I didn't complete the pre-appointment steps. I didn't do the pre-qualification. So you don't even know what you're walking into. And that's where it can get a little dangerous for people, because you're not bringing all that information up front. When you do that, we were talking about an appointment you're going on, and the people are interested in like making a move on it. Like, hey, we need to get everything ready now in case you like this place, versus, okay, we like it, now what? And it's a scramble, and it's a mad dash to get everything done. And understanding a little bit of this data here, it's not that complicated, and an agent shouldn't be making it complicated for you. If they are, I mean, that might be the time to go find another agent, because they're not really helping or guiding you.
Right.
So I'm optimistic here heading into the fall. I don't know about you. I see that we're going to, I would imagine we're going to see some opportunity to go buy a home or sell a home if that's something that you're considering. I see an opportunity for agents to make some hay here for the next 4 or 5 months. And if rates come down a little bit, that could really unlock things in a way that we haven't seen for 18, 24 months now. So a lot of opportunity here. Let's hope all the data cooperates with the Fed. You never know with them. And we'll see what shakes out in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We are going to talk about Sitzer from Sitzer Burnett has a real estate startup. Talk about hypocrisy in this. And we're going to get into this because it's ridiculous what's going on in the legal system right now. And we're going to share all about it next on Tool Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM.
When you're getting a mortgage, you shouldn't have to sacrifice great service just to get a great rate. At Mortgage America, we've been lending with this philosophy for over 35 years. We have access to great low rates without the complications and delays of big or online banks. We're a local Pennsylvania lender with loan officers that you can actually meet. As PHFA's #1 lender, we specialize in all residential mortgage programs, including first-time buyer programs and low down payment options. For your free pre-approval, call us at 610-439-8000 or apply online at mymortgageamerica.com.
Mortgage America's equal housing lender, NMLS 12850. For the best local mortgage service and great rates on your money, look no further than Mortgage America. We have been operating in the greater Philadelphia area for 40 years with a focus on smooth, easy access to home purchasing. Whether you're a first-time buyer, upsizing or downsizing, or just refinancing, we have programs for you. We also have closing cost assistance programs and access to subsidized interest rates. Pre-approval is free, no costs or commitments. To learn more, visit our website at mymortgageamerica.com or give us a call at 610-439-8000. We always have a person available to take your call with around-the-clock human service. Purchase your home with the personalized, local service you find at Mortgage America.
Mortgage America is an equal housing lender. NMLS 128501.
The Tom Toole Sales Group is the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania with over $165 million in volume for 2021. I'm Tom Toole, and our team has achieved that kind of success by being a great place to work with and to work for. No one knows Greater Philly better than we do. We know real estate, but more importantly, we're real people. We hire the best agents, and we give them all the tools to succeed. Even our brand new agents sell 17 to 24 homes a year because our team delivers the best experience in real estate. Teams deliver a better experience than individuals, and we're a top 1% real estate team in the country. We call it AAA service. We're your advocate, ally, and advisor. Because this isn't a transaction to us. It's a relationship. If you're buying or selling a home, call the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX main line at 610-692-6976 or visit tomtoole.com. That's tomtoole.com. Sell your home for more, and remember the real estate golden rule. You always get more when you work with Tom Toole.
Have you considered a career in real estate? Do you want control over your income? Whether you have a license or not, call us today at 610-692-6976 or visit tomtoole.com. Join our team, the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX main line.
Welcome back to Tool Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Sarah Tymon. We both work at the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX main line, the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania since 2018. And we are talking about Sitzer from Sitzer Burnett. Yes, the plaintiff in the Landmark Commission lawsuit now has a real estate startup. It's funny how this stuff works out, Sarah. We're going to break that down next. We're also going to be talking about the NAR appealing the DOJ decision and BrightMLS restricting data for its users to third-party websites in our final segment here. If you like what you hear, you get some value out of this, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, and if you want to schedule a call with our team about real estate, you can do that with the link in the comments. So this Sitzer story is bananas to me. So I'm just going to break it all down for you, Sarah, and so everyone can understand it. So Josh Sitzer, the same Sitzer in the Sitzer Burnett lawsuit, the one that had the jaw-dropping verdict. It's almost 10 months ago now, Halloween night. I remember this vividly. Right after we did the show, I think, and I was taking my kids out trick-or-treating. And TechCrunch was the first one to break the news. So he has a new startup named Landian, a combination of Land and Guardian. Sounds like he stole that naming strategy out of Zillow, where they combined, Pillow and something else. I forget the story. You can ask, their founders about that. But the purpose of Landian is to give consumers the option of flat. The option of paying flat fees for the services of a licensed real estate agent. And here's what he said. Due to the anti-competitive structure of the industry before the lawsuit, I, as the seller, was effectively coerced into paying 3% of my home's value selling price to a buyer's agent in order to achieve a successful sale. While hiring agents is a choice for many, I don't believe anyone should be bullied into paying for undesired services due to unfair industry practices. No one's ever had to pay a buyer agent. It's always been an option. I don't know what Sitzer's home sale was like. So he's teamed up with Bryce Gallen and Neil Batra to co-found this company. And here's the fee structure. It's a flat fee for each service, $49 for a home tour, $199 for an offer prep session. If they want a more comprehensive assistance with home buying, they can opt for $17.99 for a service package that includes up to 5 home tours and up to 2 offer prep sessions. And additional services not included are available on an a la carte basis. This goes on and on to talk about this here. And then there's been the reaction. But before we get into everyone's reaction here in mind, what do you think about this, Sarah?
All right. So did he go and like get his real estate license after like all of this?
No, I think he just owns the company.
He just like owns the company. Well, then I think another thing here is what he goes on to say, the buyer only pays these fees upon like reaching settlement for a house. Is that right?
Yes.
So, I mean, I think very quickly, depending on how many homes you're looking at, offer prep sessions you're doing, or packages that you get into, those, you're not just looking at like the $17.99 package. Like you could be looking at well above that. And, this is something that I feel like people have tried to do before, and it hasn't worked. So somebody that I guess felt slighted by, I don't know who his agent was and what happened in there.
I'd love to be able to find this out.
Right?
Yeah.
Like there has to be some type of stuff that went down there that he's gone on to do all of this. But, I think it's easy when this isn't what you're doing all day, every day, to be like, oh yeah, like that makes a lot of sense. That's a great strategy and a great way to go through this. But I don't see it working. And then I feel like you could quickly end up with a pretty big bill that exceeds what they're going to be kind of advertising here as what you would be able to pay. And then I guess also if there's the seller for whatever home this agent is getting their buyer into, if there's a offer of compensation being offered by the seller, does that then get kicked back to the buyer? Or is this going to be that agent collects that and charges the buyer for the structure that they signed on for?
I mean, that's a great question. I don't know the answer to that. I know what the settlement says, thanks to Sitzer, and that it's that if it depends on what's in the agreement. So I'd wonder what their contract looks like. And so that's a great question. I think you hit on something that's very, very obvious here. And a lot of people brought this up. I mean, we talked about this on Knowledge Brokers on Friday. Ricky Carruth said the same thing. This model's been tried over and over again. We've seen people come in and say, hey, we'll be a discount broker. We'll be a flat fee broker. I've seen it on the listing side. And in a lot of cases, it does not end well for the consumer. Right. And they end up going with an agent who knows what they're doing anyway. This model has failed repeatedly. And those companies were charging a lot more than what this company's charging. So I just don't know, like if you're getting $50 to open a door, there's going to be some agents that's all they're going to do.
Right.
They're not going to give you any advice. They're not going to give any prep. They're not going to give you guidance. And it sounds like what they're relying on here is agents to want to opt into this model. And maybe there's a certain kind of person that would do that. But I mean, if you show, I just did the math. I mean, if you showed 20 homes, which is a lot of properties to look at, and you're walking, and they think about the amount of time involved with that. I mean, you're looking at probably 25, 30 minutes each one. Comes out to $1,000. I mean, that's, potentially 10 hours worth of work. I mean, so you can do the math here and figure it out. And that's just actually showing the home, not, all the prep work and everything else that needs to happen. So
and I would imagine it would very quickly get to be where, it's like, all right, I opened the door, that's $50. Like, oh, you want me to tell you about it? That's another 100.
Well, who knows?
Oh, you know what I mean? Like it would, I don't know. I would feel like if you want the agent to do the job that you want for yourself and to get all the information and to know the comps and to know the strategies for, what might produce a successful offer, it would, it's just gonna be like, oh, that's gonna cost you. That's gonna cost you.
And I'm on their website now, and this is very interesting. It says learn from other. They have like the agent portal, so it says unlock a new era of success with Landian. Staying ahead is crucial. You can register, and they say basically you can offer on-demand home tours and offer prep with flexible flat fee. It's like tongue twister. They're flexible flat fee pricing, and they say everything's easy to comply with. Secure more deals with 90-day exclusive representation agreements, ensuring you stay in control. That's what everyone's supposed to be doing with the settlement that this guy was a part of anyway.
Right.
So I find that to be pretty interesting. Then they have like testimonials, and it's a bunch of cartoon characters here that don't look like real people in terms of the testimonials. So that's one part of this here. But this model has just failed over and over and over again. I mean, there's a long list of companies like this that don't do well. So I think that's the first observation. Now, the second observation here that I've got is that Jared James, so he's been pretty vocal about this lawsuit. And a lot of people are wondering why agents are so upset about it. And he put some content out on Instagram where he basically said that anyone wondering why realtors are so upset or seem to be so against disruption, it's not disruption when you litigate an industry into submission for selfish reasons. Let me start this over again. I'm having tongue twisters today. For anyone wondering why realtors are so upset or seem to be so against disruption, it's not disruption when you litigate an industry into submission for selfish reasons so you can launch a startup and effectively make it more difficult for potentially millions of home buyers to afford the American dream. And when you think about this, he's the named party in a class action lawsuit and now has the audacity to launch a startup saying, here's what we're going to do for his own gain, where the only people that got paid in this lawsuit are going to be the attorneys, potentially Sitzer with this startup that he has that doesn't have a good historical track record when it comes to success. I don't see how does this fly in the legal system where they see this stuff happen after the fact, where, where's the accountability there? And, it's wild to me that they're saying, well, you can't offer this, you can't do that, but now I'm going to charge a flat fee for people to get in, and I'm going to start this startup. It's incredible to me this is even allowed to go on when you look at the hypocrisy around this lawsuit, because, it's the public so far, at least what we've seen. I mean, sure, there's some pushback in getting these agreements signed. I don't have any issue with getting the contract signed or a tour agreement signed or an agency contract signed before touring homes. It's, hey, I'm going to saddle you with the cost now, even though most sellers, there was a survey, 77% of sellers still want to offer compensation. It's wild to me this is even allowed to go on. So this isn't disruption. It sounds more like corruption to me.
Right. Well, and if I know that the whole basis of the case was that sellers should not have to be forced to offer compensation, which we all know was never something that was forced or required, But I'm assuming that the back end that really he's upset about something that happened in his transaction. Would be my guess, right? And then got, all of these other parties got on board, and either it was, oh, we think that we can get money back. Sure, I'll sign that. Or maybe something happened with them as well. In most cases, when something happens that you're going to be this upset about, it probably came from, either not working with the right agent, not working with somebody who's able to navigate all of the steps and all of the things that have to go forward for both parties to get to the settlement table and feel happy about it, feel good about it, and feel as though it was on the same terms as what was written into the initial offer. So by trying to come up with a whole new business here that goes against the structure that has been proven to work, I feel like you're going to end up with more people that have more bad experiences.
Well, and I can tell you the effort you're going to get from a flat fee agent. We have seen this time and time again. Redfin, if you ever talk to someone that's worked with a Redfin agent, and these are all very clear. I sold a home a couple years ago, and a Redfin agent was writing the offer. So sure, they get their rebates or whatever they do. They did not call before they wrote the offer. Home was on the market 10 days or something like that. They wrote an offer above the asking price. Why? I have no idea. They could have bought the home for the asking price. If they would ask, do you have any written offers? It's a normal question. You ask. How often do you ask that question?
Every time.
Every time, right? So every single time Sarah's asking this. And they wrote the offer above the asking price for whatever reason. This home had a very difficult driveway to sell. I didn't say anything. No one asked me. Offer comes in. It's above the asking price. I called the seller and said, hey, great, we should sign this.
Yeah.
We've had 20 other people through and no one's bought it. Well, that person cost their client money. And I bet that consumer didn't even know. They had no idea because they were looking at, all right, I'm going to, and Redfin agents, they get compensated for touring homes. They'll make a fee for each one of those. That's one model, right? So it's just the fact that this can go on is insane to me.
Yeah.
And there's no check on this. Like, you can, and because he accused everyone of this first, now he can go do whatever he wants.
Right.
So, and obviously we can talk, it's corruptive behavior.
Right.
I don't know how else to explain it when you look at what's going on here. I mean, the actions are out there. It's incredible to me this is happening.
Now, for like Redfin and their like touring agreements and stuff, they get paid regardless of if
they get paid by Redfin. So an agent gets paid by Redfin. That's their compensation model. So Redfin will charge the whatever compensation is being offered. That goes to the company, and then the company it's like some people have a split. It's all different stuff. That's just their compensation model for their agents. But what I've talked to is, hey, I looked at like 15 homes today. Or you talk to the Redfin agent, I showed 25 homes in one day.
Yeah, that
is hard work. But the effort is just opening the door and driving around. The effort's not understanding the market, crafting an offer, winning the property, getting them the home, navigating the inspections.
Right. Like, you could potentially make a living and not ever have a sale if you're going to cram that many showings into a single day.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is it going to be helpful for your client? Like the client, no, but you would be able to literally never make a sale and get by all right.
And all this does is it hurts buyers, because there are buyers out there that affordability is already a challenge, right? Mm-hmm. So if a seller decides they're not going to compensate, and we'll see what happens, but all it does is hurt buyers, because it's another fee they got to come up with, and now they're paying out of pocket for all these things. I mean, what if the seller just paid their compensation?
Right.
You know what I mean? So ridiculous. I can't get over this. So that's one thing. And Redfin actually responded to this, and they said they learned that when consumers want to call on the expertise of one person, you have to pay for that person very, very well. That's a quote from Redfin. So that's one piece of news here. The other thing happening, and it's NAR decided to do something with themselves here. That they're going to be appealing this DOJ investigation, and they're taking it to the Supreme Court. I don't think they had another option here, but because they settled this Sitzer-Burnett case, because they, and we've gone over that in depth. We don't need to go over that in any more detail. Now they're appealing the reopening of the DOJ settlement that was supposedly settled in late 2019 until the DOJ decided to reopen it here. And this is going back and forth now. It's separate from the consumer-led commission lawsuits, and now it's supposed the intention is to take the case to the Supreme Court and see what's going to happen. Now, the filing that happened last week also said the DOJ agreed to narrow its request for documents, and NAR has agreed to turn over some documents by September 30th. And if the Supreme Court refuses to review the case, they will turn over more. Do you think this actually goes to the Supreme Court? That's my biggest question for you.
I don't know. I mean, I have no idea. Like, I feel like it could go either way. What do you think is going to happen?
Logic has escaped this whole thing.
Right.
I mean, the things you think are obvious, whether it's, that, okay, well, the DOJ agreed, then they changed their mind, and then one court said yes, one court said no. I see a lot riding on the election here to determine the outcome.
Yeah.
And I don't like saying that, but you look at, there was one administration in place that when it got agreed to, and then another administration came in, and you got kind of the same kind of people running against each other. So,
right.
The fact that the DOJ can just say, hey, we changed our mind is another ridiculous thing. I mean, it's that makes me question, like, just contracts in general. Like,
right.
You sign a contract for something like that, you change your mind.
Right.
And then
the point of the contract is
the point of the contract is hey, these are the terms of our deal.
Right.
And whatever deal that is. It could be a lease for a car.
Yeah.
It could be, obviously a real estate transaction's an obvious one.
Right.
And there is, I mean, I've noticed people just think they can get out of these contracts whenever they want. I mean, and that's where it's really important to explain those things properly. But it feels like we're just living in this kind of world where people don't think they got to follow through on what they sign. I mean,
right. Well, and that's why I feel like it's hard for me to predict whether or not it will go there, because like
I
a lot
agree.
of this hasn't made sense or like moved in one direction. It kind of like zigzags. So who knows where it'll land.
Well, and look, obviously we're talking about this to spread the word and raise awareness. What I am clear on is this for agents, that if you want to focus on having a winning business, do what Sarah's been doing since all this happened. We've gone over like the guidelines and what to do. And you've basically been like, okay, that's what I got to do now. Right? I mean, that's been your mindset. We've talked about this. Like, I mean, I work with Sarah all the time. You're just like, sure.
Yeah.
And
If that's what we have to do, we'll do it. And then if they change it, we'll change it.
Well, but you're focusing on trying to help people. And
Yeah.
that's a difference. And I think that there's so many agents like, well, what if this happens? And you've seen some of these questions. I mean, we had a brokerage meeting. It was very interesting, but everyone's trying to figure out like how to understand it all.
Yeah.
I'm more of like, all right, just tell me what I need to do so I can do the stuff that's actually going to matter, which is helping people navigate the market, because there's always going to be a need for that. And, you know, I mean, so what's your thought process there? So you're on the other side, right? I mean, I run these trainings. So when you hear, and obviously we've got I hope a pretty good relationship, but and all kidding aside, like, so what's your thought process there? Because you've been in other industries as well, where you just hear like it. What leads you to that?
What you mean for like
Just complying and moving ahead,
things.
yeah. Because I mean that's how you do things.
Yeah. I mean, I think you could spend a lot more time, effort, and energy trying to figure out how to not do something than to just do it. And if this is what you need to do, like particularly in terms of, just staying compliant with having the necessary documents that need to be signed prior to touring homes signed, you don't leave any wiggle room there. Like you must do this to be compliant. I mean, I know I had a showing this weekend where it was a situation where there was a client that had called into the office and wanted to go out and see a home the next morning. And I was not able to connect with him in any way prior to getting out there. So I had everything printed off. And, I was like, listen, like this is what, if we want to get in and take a look at this home, like I would have liked to have gone over this so it doesn't feel so on the spot, but like we need to have these done. There's not an option there. And then, it was like, well, we just want to look at it. And, I used if I was showing my mom this place, like she would have to sign it. And like, we can make it property specific. Like we can make it just for today, but like, we're not going in without these signed. And I think as long as you stay firm on it, it kind of actually takes the pressure off of you, because it's not like it's me saying this or that like somebody else could go and do this differently. This is what you have to do to be compliant, and we need to follow suit.
So did they?
They signed.
They signed? Okay. And did they, so what kind, did they sign like a property exclusive or?
Yeah, we did property exclusive.
Smart.
Which I was completely on board with. I had never met these people before. I don't want them to feel like they're locked into me for forever. But yeah, we did a property specific. I went over like the changes, explained that I'd already spoken to the agent about the compensation that was being offered on this specific property. And gave a rundown of what this means, how it affects them, and how touring homes is different moving forward.
And I think that's, and like, so how'd it go? Like, are you still talking to these people? Like you're working on the relationship? Like, is that the direction this is going?
Yeah. So then, after the showing, I provided them with some additional information that they were looking for, got that over to them right away. And now I've been kind of like scouting to see if there's any other options. They're pretty specific about where they're looking. So
yeah, and I know the property you're talking about just because I keep track of these things, but that's because like, and when you look at what gets in the way of implementing, it's usually like fear of failure, right? People are afraid they're going to say no. Well, hey, I don't have an option here. Like and so that I love that. It's overwhelming complexity, which I don't think there's anything that complicated about this. This is what people have been doing, by the way, forever. They've been working on these non-exclusive relationships for a long time. It's inadequate resources and support. I would imagine you felt pretty prepared for that, the amount of role-playing that we've done. I mean, we've been doing this for a long time. You had the proper preparation because you tried to get in touch with them, which is usually another reason people don't implement. Then there's the resistance to change, and that's where people kind of get uncomfortable. And then the lack of accountability. Well, I mean, you don't want to be breaking rules in this kind of environment because people will be getting sued if that happens. I'm very clear on that. So that's really great advice here. And I think that's pretty clear when you look at all the things that kind of get in the way of adapting to change. This is all new, right? I mean, relatively, maybe not as new for us, but new for some people. So I think that's a great case study in it may not go exactly how you want it, but you were prepped for all potential outcomes.
Right. And it does make it easier that it's like, it's not just me saying, like, this is the rule. So, like, and being able to say, like, hey, I think it feels a little bit uncomfortable too, us just meeting and me saying, here, you have to sign all of these things. But this is why. And, and we can proceed a number of different ways, and you get to pick which way we proceed. But this is national. This isn't just us.
Love that. So if you are an agent listening, rewind this part, because that is great coaching advice here. And obviously when it happens in the field and someone else is telling you that and it's a real life scenario, it can go a long way. We're going to take a quick break. We'll stop talking about all this NAR nonsense. I do want to talk about some other nonsense going on in the industry with BrightMLS restricting data feeds now. This is another thing that's incredible to me. We'll break that down next on Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM.
You shouldn't have to deal with all the red tape when getting your mortgage from a big or online bank. At Mortgage America, we have access to big bank money, but with the personalized and detailed service of a local bank. We are here in your community and ready to serve with fast settlements, low down payment options, and first-time homebuyer programs. Pre-approval is free, no costs or commitments. For more information, visit our website at mymortgageamerica.com or give us a call at 610-439-8000.
Mortgage America's equal housing lender. NMLS 128501.
I'm Tom Toole of the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line. If you're thinking of becoming a real estate agent in the greater Philly area, I have a special offer for you. Our team did $165 million of volume in 2021, making us the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania and a top 1% team nationally. Our agents love us because we offer them a successful career, a great life, and an unbeatable culture. Agents who've been with us for at least a year average 30-plus sales. Even our brand new agents average 17 to 24 sales a year. We offer proven systems and expert training. We help you set more appointments and sell more houses. Now here's the offer. If you don't have a real estate license yet, we offer real estate scholarships so you can get one for free. Check it out at realestatescholarshipprogram.com or visit the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line at tomtoole.com. That's tomtoole.com. Get more out of your real estate career, and remember the real estate golden rule. You always get more when you work with Tom Toole.
When you're getting a mortgage, you shouldn't have to sacrifice great service just to get a great rate. At Mortgage America, we've been lending with this philosophy for over 35 years. We have access to great low rates without the complications and delays of big or online banks. We're a local Pennsylvania lender with loan officers that you can actually meet. As PHFA's #1 lender, we specialize in all residential mortgage programs, including first-time buyer programs and low down payment options. For your free pre-approval, call us at 610-439-8000 or apply online at mymortgageamerica.com. Mortgage America's equal housing lender. NMLS 128501.
All right. Welcome back to Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Sarah Tymon. We both work at the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line, the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania since 2018. And we're going to talk to you about how BrightMLS is now restricting data access, which is another one of these things that happens. And I'm just wondering, how is this even possible in today's world? It seems like, you ever see Zoolander?
Yes.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills, right? Like It was a very classic line. Maybe some of you guys probably haven't seen Zoolander. I know it's more of a generational thing for me and Sarah. So if you got some value out of this, you like what you hear, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, and if you want to schedule a call with our team, you can do so with a link in the comments. So, this is interesting. So BrightMLS, it's the second largest MLS in the country. They apparently had emailed some third-party vendors that use their data feed and they explained to their customers who also have the data feed, meaning people like us, that there's going to be some upcoming changes outlined by the MLS. And they had met with this company. This was reported by Now BAM. It was a company called Relatics, and they called it a routine review. They were told its use of agent and office contact information is contrary to the terms of BrightMLS's license agreement. They're going to be removed from the data feed as of September 6th. So Relatics is a company that, sources production data and lets you know how many homes people are selling. And, if you think about the world we're in right now with like the Sitzer-Burnett lawsuit, well, we can't market if there's compensation on the MLS. So It's probably pretty useful for agents in the spirit of complying with the lawsuit to be able to develop their own ways of, hey, here's the person that sells the most homes in XYZ town, or their center zip code production is, let's say it's in Bala Cynwyd. That's where we are right now. So if you get a listing in Bala Cynwyd, you can market to all those people. So that's one use of this. Obviously, I think the agent-to-agent marketing is going to be more important than ever, knowing what you have to do to communicate compensation to people. You can't put it on the MLS. So apparently, according to Relatics, BrightMLS's compliance team completely turned over since the original license was approved in 2020, and they are removing agent and office contact information from all external data feeds. This was to restrict access, was driven by the MLS staff rather than the board of directors, who are now targeting any use of MLS data for agent recruiting purposes. So Relatics is going to be advocating for this. Apparently, this is mandated by NAR to have full data transparency. They're arguing the new restrictions push brokers towards expensive alternative data sources that may not provide the same level of accuracy or value. And then there's other programs like this. One's Showing Time's Market View Broker, which is very similar. They haven't received any notice about losing access. So the statement from Bright said, we treat all vendors alike and provide licenses and access to our subscriber, real estate agent, and brokers' valuable real estate data only when the vendors demonstrate they are using each piece of data for permissible purposes to serve their subscribers. We are in communication with the vendor about our agreement. So
they're going to stop giving the agent and brokerage office and information info to these outside sources, but it will still be on the MLS.
Yeah, so you can look it up in the MLS one by one, but it doesn't go to like a data feed that you could use. And
if you were doing a report within the MLS, would it still work? Like if you were looking at agent production?
I think it would, but the challenge is, I've looked at these reports and it's not like easily accessible. It's like you got to go in and it's like you can see. They don't give you as much production transparency as you would think. You can look up if you want. I was going to look up any agent, right? Agent X, we'll call them. That'll come up and you can do that, but you got to know who you're looking up. You can't just say, here's people doing business here. Here's who's done more than 5 transactions in Montgomery County.
Right.
Or these other things that would help when it comes to marketing a listing and communicating compensation in light of the new rules we've all got to play by here. And it's also I've got questions about like, you go into Zillow or Realtor.com. Are they not going to put the agent's contact information there?
Right.
Right. And that's, without direct access to listing agent details, consumers might be misled. They might get barriers when seeking accurate information. So, it's with the idea of cooperating together and, collaborating and marketing their services. I've got some real concerns about this. And it's like, where did this even come from?
Well, we've always said that going directly to the listing agent in most cases is not the right move. Like if you're the buyer,
yeah, sure.
Isn't the whole point of all of this like for transparency and to give consumers the option to move forward how they best see fit? So whether or not it's the right move to reach out directly to the listing agent, shouldn't that information be there so that the buyer has an option to do that should they so choose?
The option should be available. Absolutely,
the option should
right?
be there. Like now we've talked with people that typically like the listing agent has signed a contract and has fiduciary duties to the seller. So like they're not like they're representing the seller. Now, can you do a dual agency thing? Sure, yada yada. But so while I wouldn't advise going directly to the listing agent, that should be still an option that people have.
I agree. And here's we got a couple minutes left here, so I want to get to this. So NAR's policy statement 8.7, it outlines the right of MLS participants to access brokerage back office data, BBO. That's what they call it, which includes listing and roster information. According to NAR, the participants are entitled to use, and the MLSs must provide to participants the BBO data for BBO use subject to the terms below. And again, BBO data means all real property listing and roster information in the MLS database, including all listings of all participants, but excludes MLS-only fields. So they're talking about BBO use means brokerage management systems that only expose BBO data to participant and subscribers affiliated with the participant. CRM and transaction management tools that expose it to the participant and subscribers. Agent and brokerage productivity and ranking tools. That's exactly what Relatics is. That exposes BBO data. And marketplace statistical analysis and reports in conformance with NAR MLS policy. So I don't see... Basically, Bright's saying, hey, I'm not paying attention to this anymore. We're going to do whatever we want.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting here. And I think it's another bad business decision.
Yeah.
And this really demonstrates the MLSs are the ones with the power, not NAR right now. Because they're basically saying, NAR, insert FU here or whatever you want. That's kind of how I'm reading this. So that's it for this week's episode. You want to follow Sarah? She's at Ty_Ty Time. On Instagram, you can follow me at Tom Toole 3RD. And if you got some value out of this, do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, and you can schedule a call with our team with the link in the comments. We'll see you next week on Toole Time, Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM.